Don't move, because what you're about to hear is not fiction. It is the story of weapons so powerful they didn't just kill people. They changed civilizations, they shattered empires, they turned cities into shadows, and in one case they created a force so immense it became the largest man-made explosion in human history. Right now, humanity lives in the shadow of inventions built to dominate faster, burn hotter, strike farther, and kill more efficiently than anything that came before. And the most terrifying part, we never stopped improving them. If you're new here, subscribe to Mystrixia, turn on the bell, and stay with us. Because the truth behind history's deadliest weapons is darker than most people realize. Most people think the most powerful weapons began with nuclear bombs. They didn't. They began the moment human beings asked a fatal question: how do we make killing faster? From that moment on, war became a race for range, a race for speed, a race for terror, a race for total domination. And every age produced a new answer: a bow that moved like lightning, a fire that burned on water, cannons that made castles obsolete, machine guns that turned battlefields into slaughterhouses, floating airfields that could project force across oceans, and finally, bombs that made human extinction imaginable. Long before missiles crossed the sky, there was a weapon that helped build the largest contiguous land empire in history: the Mongol composite bow, small enough for horseback, strong enough to kill at terrifying range, built from layers of wood, horn and sinew. It stored extraordinary power for its size. In trained hands, bows of this type could outrange many European bows in maximum distance, and mounted archers used that advantage with ruthless discipline. Some historical analyses note extreme range shots that could reach roughly 500 yards with lighter arrows. But the real terror wasn't the bow itself. It was how the Mongols used it. They rode at full speed, fired in every direction, then vanished before the enemy could answer. They faked retreat. They lured armies forward, then turned and rained arrows into chaos. This wasn't brute force, it was precision, mobility, and psychological collapse. Empires didn't just lose battles to the Mongols, they lost confidence. And once fear spread, conquest became easier. Then came a weapon so strange it sounded supernatural: Greek fire, a Byzantine incendiary that could keep burning even on water. Imagine an enemy fleet approaching Constantinople, thinking the sea was safety, only to watch fire burst across the waves. Flames launched from tubes on ships, flames that clung, flames that spread, flames that wouldn't die. Britannica notes it was used with devastating effect against Arab fleets attacking Constantinople in 673 and again in 717, and its battlefield value is often cited as one reason the Byzantine Empire survived as long as it did. And here's what makes it perfect for your video. Even now, no one knows its exact formula with certainty. That mystery gives it myth. This wasn't just ancient chemistry. It was a state secret turned into terror. Then came the invention that ended centuries of military certainty: gunpowder. At first, it was an experiment, a strange explosive curiosity. But once cannons matured, the world changed. Walls that had protected kings for generations could now be broken open. Fortresses that once symbolized invincibility became targets. Stone became vulnerable. Distance became deadly. The old promise of safety behind thick walls began to die. And once castles could fall to artillery, political power began to shift with them. This is what made gunpowder one of history's most powerful weapons. It didn't just kill soldiers, it killed entire systems. Then war became colder, less personal, more efficient. The machine gun. In the First World War, it reached its zenith as a battlefield weapon. This was no longer a duel between men. This was a system, a weapon capable of cutting down wave after wave before they even reached the trenches. Old ideas of courage, banners, cavalry, and glorious charges ran straight into industrialized firepower and collapsed. The machine gun did something horrifying. It exposed the modern battlefield for what it really was. Not heroic, mechanical, mass-produced death. And once armies realized that, they dug into trenches, barbed wire, mud, and fear. Then came a different kind of weapon. Not just something that destroys, but something that projects power across the planet. The aircraft carrier. It is not merely a ship. It is a floating airfield, a city at sea. The Smithsonian describes carriers as floating cities, and educational material from the Air and Space Museum notes that roughly 3,000 to 5,000 people can live and work aboard one. That means one vessel can carry aircraft, fuel, munitions, radar, command systems, and enough personnel to launch a war far from home soil. This changed the meaning of distance. A nation no longer needed a nearby border to influence a conflict. It could bring an airbase with it. That is why carriers became symbols of global reach. They don't just fight wars, they announce power. And then, humanity crossed a line it can never uncross. The atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, Hiroshima was struck by a uranium bomb called Little Boy, with an explosive force of about 13 kilotons. In the 4 months that followed, an estimated 90,000 to 166,000 people died. What made this weapon different was not only the blast, it was the layers of horror, the flash, the heat, the shockwave, the firestorm, the radiation. Some surfaces in Hiroshima preserved nuclear shadows, where intense heat and light bleached surrounding material but left dark silhouettes behind. And one ruined structure, the Genbaku Dome, remained standing near the hypocenter area, preserved today as a symbol of the most destructive force ever created by humankind. That is why atomic weapons changed history forever. They did not merely destroy a target. They changed what humanity understood destruction to mean. But even Hiroshima was not the final step, because the arms race kept climbing, higher, hotter, madder. In 1961, the Soviet Union detonated Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear device ever exploded, with a yield of 50 megatons of TNT. That was not just a bomb. That was a message, a demonstration that human beings had learned how to manufacture apocalyptic scale. One test, one explosion. And the world understood something terrifying. There was now no meaningful upper ceiling except political restraint. Not morality, not physics alone. Restraint. And restraint can fail. So, what is the most powerful weapon ever created? A bow, a fire, a cannon, a machine gun, a carrier, a bomb? Maybe the real answer is darker. Maybe the most dangerous weapon in history is human ingenuity without wisdom. Because every time we create something stronger, we also create a new way to lose control. And the scariest truth of all, the next great weapon may already exist.